I'll say right off the bat that this is pretty much just an excuse to talk about Dune 2, because it's a great movie. I really would like the opportunity to just like make a review because it's just such a good movie. Incredibly well done. I want to say that I have not read the books. I'm familiar with some of the things about the books, and I decided that I was going to wait until parts 1 and 2 came out as movies because I wanted to be surprised. I wanted to not know what happened, like narratively, before I read the books. So I wanted to be surprised by the movies, and I was, and I really think that benefited me because I loved part 2 so much. I was surprised by a couple of things, and like it was so valuable to me. And so now I'm going to go back and read the book, and I think maybe another video could happen after I do read the first book, and then of course I'm going to wait for Dune Messiah to come out before I read the Dune Messiah book. But I wanted to talk about the essence of what Dune is about. Okay, so this is clearly, and most people understand it to be this way, clearly the point of the story is a cautionary tale against messianic figures. Okay, and so from a Christian perspective, is there an issue with writing a cautionary tale about messianic figures? Is there an issue with writing a cautionary tale about religious structures? I think absolutely not. There's a number of my favorite properties and favorite stories that I can think of that are like predicated around the idea of being cautionary against religious ideas. And I think that that's actually incredibly valuable. And I think Christians actually have a lot to learn from something like that. You can see how these things have been abused. You can see how in many ways they can be abused. The things that you can do with a messianic figure, I mean, you can see the ways that from its earliest conception, the Christian faith has been perverted and abused. Right off the bat in the Bible, Paul's epistles and Peter's epistles are addressing issues, and they're addressing these perversions of the gospel and these perversions of what Jesus taught. And you have things like the Gnostics and the Arians and all of these other things that rise up even before the Council of Nicaea and are needing to be addressed by the church. And then this floats away into everything that would become the formal Catholic Church, and then the Reformation that comes from that. So there's so much going on in religious structure that I think it's absolutely valuable to see the ways that it can be abused. And I think that Dune especially is a really valuable example of that. Specifically, I think what it's teaching about is a false messianic figure, someone who sets them up. It reminds me most of some cults and things that I've learned about. You can think of like the Branch Davidians. Now, not all Branch Davidians. I know there's several sects of them, and I think that there's some risk generally with everything that they do, but specifically, you know, the ones that led to the Waco siege and everything that went wrong in Waco, Texas. You can see how he uses misinterpretations and invents teachings from a religious text to make himself into a false messianic figure. And Dune is specifically, you know, kind of a cautionary tale against that specific kind of thing happening. And I think it may be really valuable to see something like if we believe that the Antichrist is going to come to fruition, it's really valuable for something like that. What it doesn't do is deny the reality of something like what we believe is the true prophecies of Jesus. So like we believe that Jesus Christ himself fulfilled a number of prophecies, and the difference between those prophecies and the prophecies in Dune, for example, are that they weren't set up. Like they weren't created by a group of people so that they were constantly waiting on this Messiah figure and then they push forward this person who satisfies it. Some people have taken that view of Christianity, but it's really just absurd, especially from a power point of view. I definitely don't think that Dune is intended to be anti-Christian at all. Actually, I don't think whatsoever, but it is anti-religious structure, and it is a cautionary tale on what can happen if it's abused. And I think it just does an exceptionally phenomenal job of that. It's an important reminder to be careful where you're getting your prophecies from. Are you being told them, or are they, historical? Are they true? Are people telling you things that are the signs of the times or the signs of someone to come that are really fundamental? Do you understand what you're reading in the Bible, or are these things coming from external sources? Are these things misinterpretations? Are these things misunderstandings, and you're being set up to fail? And so I think that is really valuable. So I'm really interested to see what happens next in the Dune series, but I really just wanted to preface and say that I think it is probably the most incredible movie to come out in 5 years, and I really just wanted to make a video talking about how exceptional it is, how exceptional the storytelling is, and what they've achieved with these two films that are really just one film when you put them together. I mean, they're exploring the plot of one book, and it really is a spectacular cautionary tale, and I think Christians, as much as anybody else, can learn a lot from it, just like they can from all of the ancient mythologies and things that have taught similar ideas, and where we can see this kind of story go wrong. And I think this is a really valuable deconstruction of that. I also want to say, finally, that it is primarily not a deconstruction of messianic figures as much as it seems that way, but it is on its head a deconstruction of the archetypal savior story. So it's really not, I don't think, in its infancy, and I'm hoping to see this more when I read the book, it's not addressing a religious idea so much as it is addressing a story idea. And so the whole point of Dune was to turn the white savior kind of idea on its head and give them something different and say, what happens when you have this prophecy idea that's used in Harry Potter and all of these other, obviously Harry Potter was way after Dune, but I mean, you can look back through stories that have used the idea of a prophesied savior. It's a very common trope. Literarily, it may have been inspired by Christianity, but also inspired by, ancient Egyptian mythology has prophesied saviors, and really all of these old stories do. And so I really think that the intention of Dune was to address it, not necessarily just from a religious standpoint, but from a literary perspective, and say, what if this person is actually the villain? What if they're actually manipulating these things? What if they're coming about this from the wrong side? And I think it's really valuable. It's really valuable to look and say, what can people in positions of power do to manipulate people and use false information against them? And this is really, it's a really fantastic cautionary tale. If you haven't, go see Dune 2. I will shamelessly plug that movie for the rest of my life and be exceptionally excited for the next one.